If you've been on the internet at all these past few weeks, you've probably seen a thing or two or 200 about the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial. Because what started as a defamation lawsuit Depp filed against his ex wife quickly devolved with accusations of abuse flying both ways and salacious details that have inspired a slew of memes, TikTok trends, and even a Saturday Night Live sketch. But there are a lot of things going on here that really are no laughing matter. Heard has claimed she suffered physical and sexual abuse at the hands of an often drunk Depp. And while Depp denies that and has made his own accusations of violence, it's Heard who has been made the butt of nearly all the public's jokes. And I guess the Me Too movement that told us to believe women was put on hold for the pandemic. Exhibit B, Chef Mario Batali, on just the second day of his trial earlier this month, a judge found him not guilty of assault and battery after being accused of forcibly kissing and groping a woman in a Boston bar. So are we just back to where we started before the movement that was supposed to change everything? Well, joining me to discuss are Dr. Tina Opie, a visiting scholar at Harvard Business School and associate professor at Babson College, and Jen Dedrick, author of She the People, an illustrated history of women's citizenship. Welcome to both of you. Tina, first, I feel like we have to set the table that much of what we're going to talk about is about legal things that aren't moving forward, but there's also the things in society that we hope are moving forward that I imagine the law will catch up to, as unfortunately is often the case. But Tina, I just want to start with you. What do you make of the public's reaction to the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial?
I mean, it's a sensationalist, salacious crap show. That's what I would say. I think that people are unfortunately seeing what I would prefer to be a private situation play out in the public eye. That's the first thing. The second thing I'd say is that I would really hope that people use this as an opportunity. This is a specific situation. I hope that we don't lose the perspective that the Me Too movement for me was about believing women are credible people, that they are lodging credible accusations, and that's a starting point. And then we may have data or information and we litigate the case. But I hope that we can remember, we start with the belief that the people who are accusing perpetrators, alleged perpetrators, are credible individuals.
Jen, I feel concerned about hooking all of the hopes and dreams of the Me Too movement on a case where I think to Tina's point, you've got two individuals who are not very much like other individuals in the world. I mean, obviously domestic violence and sexual violence happen everywhere, but they're over here. Yeah, they're celebrities, and the case itself is complicated, and they're accusing each other. But at the same time, if you look at, the other cases that we're talking about, there doesn't seem to be legal progress in actually punishing people for behavior that I think some might say is indeed criminal. What do you think?
For me, what's interesting is who's paying for all of the social media we're seeing. I run social. I've been doing social media for a long time. I run a Facebook page for the Equal Rights Amendment, which used to get targeted all the time by bots during the 2016 election. And it was very obvious they were bots because I would mention Hillary Clinton, and then 2 seconds later, there'd be, boom, a reaction to it by someone who didn't even follow the page. And so I thought, these are bots. And my initial reaction was sort of naively to think, oh, it's Johnny Depp's PR team. They're just putting it out there. And then it ends up that it's actually Newswire. It's Ben Shapiro has spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on promoting the idea that Johnny Depp is innocent, that Amber Heard's a gold digger, that she's laughable, she shouldn't be believed, in an attempt to push back on Me Too. It's always like my daughter said, of course it was Ben Shapiro, because the kids today, he's like their favorite person to pick on. But he, and I think that's, having to look at the behind the scenes of the social media activity that's geared against women, going back to Gamergate, going back to Hillary Clinton, going back to all of it this is just part of that. It's part of the what sucks young white boys in particular into these movements that then say, oh, and also, by the way, have you thought about white nationalism? You know, like there's this kind of, this is sort of the feeder pipe that goes into that.
Tina,
So,
you also have the issue of the fandom, which is its own particular monster that takes over on all sorts of sides. But as we're at this point in the Me Too movement, to not be able to recognize those aspects in this trial and try and, at least from a media standpoint or Saturday Night Live standpoint, let the trial run out without everybody jumping in to try and have these decisions and hanging an entire movement on what may or may not, the jury may or may not find to be plausible.
Yeah, I think it's a huge mistake to do that. No one case should make a movement, nor should any one case potentially dismantle a movement. And I do want to talk about the social media aspect of this. NPR had an article which said that, I believe, I want to get the numbers right, on TikTok as of this past, Monday morning, I Stand With Amber Heard has garnered about 8.2 million views. In contrast, Justice for Johnny Depp has earned 15 billion
with a B
views, with a B. And I think, to Jen's point, to some of the points that you've raised, there is a piling on of support for Johnny Depp. I don't know Amber Heard. I don't know Johnny Depp from Eve and Adam. Really, I don't know them. But I think it's important to recognize we have to talk about an issue of power. And if you look at the relationship, much older man, far wealthier, whose star was much higher, it does not mean that he's lying or she's lying or whatever. But I do think we have to look at this at multiple levels, and we have to consider the power dynamics. And when you have the kind of statistics that I just shared with you, there is clearly a very biased perspective. Now, some would say that's because she's lying and he's telling the truth. Things are typically more complicated than that, as this case alludes to.
Jen, we're talking about Mario Batali as well. And again, this is one of those issues of what society believes, what we may believe, and what gets to the level of criminal activity. I mean, I feel, having re-entered the workplace, that things have changed in the workplace, at least in my workplace. What has to happen to close that gap further, though, that some behavior just not only is rude, but also is criminal?
I mean, I think that, and I want to speak to what Tina was saying about celebrity, is that celebrities get away with stuff. Mario Batali is in the, I watched the O.J. Simpson trial, and he's charmed you watch the jury being charmed by him, right? And you watch Mario Batali is a famous chef that people have seen on the Food Network, and they want to believe the best of him. The young women who are rallying to Johnny Depp they grew up with him. He's Willy Wonka, he's Edward Scissorhands. So it's very hard. I think in terms of workplace, I think obviously things have changed. Even like my mother actually applied for a job at WGBH in the 60s. And during her job interview, the man giving her the tour kept grabbing her butt. And then her friend who brought her in said, oh, you get used to that. He does that all the time. That doesn't happen at GBH now, I presume, right? And so I think that things have changed. I think that one of the great things about the Me Too movement was that women started telling the men in their lives their stories. So that I had a lot of men say to me, I had no idea it was like that. Because to them, it was a lot of, I don't act like that. So I don't know what they're talking about, where women are saying, sure, you might not act like that, but every woman has experienced that. I think that's starting to slowly, and it's changing things in ways that are, Tina could speak better to this, in the workplace, where it's not celebrities, where it's just regular people interacting day to day. And men. I think that's where the actual change is going to happen.
Tina, are we also at a place maybe where we can say, believe victims, believe women, believe people accusing people of this kind of misconduct, and also investigate it fully? I think sometimes we get caught up in the, we believe a person, well, they might not be credible. It might not have happened. It does happen that way, but it shouldn't throw everything else out. I mean, can we, as a society, manage those two messages?
I think I hope we can, but I think it's difficult for people to do that because on one hand, some people viewing or treating the accuser as credible, as sort of problematic if you are going to investigate it fully, and vice versa. Meaning there are some people who are like, just believe what the accuser says and don't investigate it. Her word is good enough. I know I'm going to get some blowback for saying that. I do not believe this. I am sitting here as a Black woman who has watched Black men be falsely accused of things throughout history and lynched and murdered as a result of that. So it is very difficult for me to just fully jump in and say, believe every accuser. At the same time, I think it's critical, given the way that power dynamics work in this world, that we start from a position that the accuser is credible, and then we thoroughly investigate. And we thoroughly investigate, and when we get information that supports or refutes the accuser's story, that we move ahead with that we make decisions upon that. The challenge is during this process of litigation, there's often also the court of public opinion, which can sort of superimpose itself and blind people who are viewing this to what may actually be the legal issues at hand. And there's bias involved. And I think that can prevent us from properly balancing those two things.
Jen, we just have a couple of seconds left, but I'm just wondering, are you optimistic? I mean, are you feeling that, we have made progress, we're not where we need to be, but we're moving in the right direction?
It depends on the day.
On the day.
I think we have, as like I said, if I went to an interview for a job at GBH today, I'm sure the guy interviewing me wouldn't think he could grab my butt. That's as he was doing the interview. So I think there's progress. I think men have to get used to the idea of being disappointed in their heroes, being disappointed in Louis C.K., being disappointed in Johnny Depp. And because women have had to deal with being disappointed with men that they loved and trusted for a long time. And so I think and I see the change in the men. I see Celtics players talking about how much they love their babies and holding their babies. And I think men are learning to be more public about stuff and changing.
They just have to sit with their feelings a little bit more. How about that?
Just
We'll sit with their feelings. All right, Tina Opie, Jen Dudrick, thank you so much for joining me. Happy Tuesday to you.
Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye. Thanks for having me.